What is going on, everyone? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. We are presented by Tick Pick and Fansided. Kevin Klein in the house, joined by Justin Yamas, friend of the show, Discord member, and a great Dodgers mind. So I'm excited to have him back on the Incline. He was with us earlier in the off-season edition of our podcast and YouTube stream. Your Dodgers taking care of business,
Yes,
beating the Miami Marlins as they should out there in Miami. I believe they went 5-1 against them on the season. So they're done with Miami because we won't see them in the playoffs. The Dodgers are now 25-12. Let's get Justin's thoughts. Passing it over to you. What's the first thing you want to talk about with your Dodgers?
well, good morning, or in your case, good evening. Thanks for having me on. Well, it is crazy about absolute madness about all the injuries we've had, especially to our pitching staff, and now it has come on to our hitting with Teoscar Hernandez out, and we still have the best record in the league right now. After all of these problems, I guess we should start talking about the injuries, and then it seems like it is a game of it is like Squid Game. One day another pitcher goes out, and another day another pitcher goes out. We just lost Evan Phillips today. It is a forearm, I believe, or elbow, and then recently we also lost. Who else did we lose? Now I'm blanking out, but it seems like every single day we're losing a pitcher. We just lost Triton Kopech to the 60-day IL, and of course we lost Snell, we lost Glasnow, and yeah, and yet our pitching staff is still holding on Landon Knapp because he pitched well, particularly well today. He hasn't been pitching well all season long, but he pitched particularly well today for a spot start. Tony Gonsolin, we just got him back. He's actually looked very, very decent. So I'll leave it to you. You pick the topic, and I'll carry on. I'll start.
Sounds good. Let's start on a lighter note. The man of the hour, I think, has to be Freddie Freeman. The show that he has just been putting on, he has been quietly having one of the biggest monster seasons that I can ever recall. He's quietly hitting 362 right now for the Dodgers, has a 435 on base percentage, an OPS of 1,148, which is well above his career regular season numbers of a 902 OPS. He has 8 home runs, 29 RBIs now. This is all coming off kind of a shortened spring training. He was recovering from the ankle surgery and the broken rib cartilage. And here he is in pure form, maybe the best version of Freddie Freeman we've seen up to this point. Over his last 15 games, hitting 404 with 21 RBIs. Over his last 7 games, hitting 483, 4 home runs as well, the same home runs nonetheless. And then yesterday he had a feat. I believe he is now the all-time home runs leader against the Miami Marlins. He's got 42 of them in his career. So he's absolutely tormented that team throughout the duration of his career. So once again, because we just saw them the other day, thank you, Atlanta Braves, for letting Freddie Freeman come to the Dodgers. I'm going to compare their career wars in their respective teams in a second, but I just wanted to showcase Freddie Freeman because he's been a monster, and you could argue right now he's in the National League MVP conversation.
Well, if he didn't miss 10 or 11 games due to injury, yes, we'd be talking about Freddie Freeman a bit more. And yes, it goes all the way back to the 2021-22 lockout. After losing Seager, we needed a left-handed bat to replace the production we would have lost out of Seager. And then, so Atlanta, they traded for Matt Olson when Freddie Freeman was out on the open market. It was something about Freeman and his agent. They couldn't come to terms on a contract, and Atlanta decided to pull the trigger, and they got Matt Olson, who was cheaper, who was younger, and essentially Freddie Freeman fell in the Dodgers' laps. It seems like Freddie Freeman has been even better as a Dodger than he was as a Brave. We all know his signature moment last year with the Statue of Liberty when he hit the home run off your favorite pitcher, Nestor Cortez Jr. and and it seems like he's had his best seasons, his best three, well now 3+ seasons as a Dodger. And yes, and today he hit a bases clearing double. I believe it was in the 7th inning. It opened the game up. It was it was 3-0, 3-0, and then after that, Freddie Freeman with 2 outs, he hits a bases clearing double, which essentially put the game out of reach. It also helped the Dodgers with their bullpen, as in it allowed them to use Matt Zauer for the rest of the game. He got what, a 5 inning save, because if had the game still been close, they would have to use high leverage relievers. They would have probably had to use Scott. They probably would have to use Yates, but because Freddie Freeman helped put the game out of reach, it helped them rest some of their arms and allowed them to stretch out and use Matt Sauer. So, and because we know the Dodgers are playing 19 out of 20 games, they've lost 2 starting pitchers, and due to the injury, and their bullpen is among the league's most taxed, and basically Freddie Freeman helped them win today and helped them set their bullpen out for the stretch run as they continue to recover from losing 2 starting pitchers.
As BC's pointing out in the chat, it was a bases clearing
there it is, a
triple.
triple.
And
Right.
to put both these guys' careers in perspective with their new respective clubs, Matt Olson, in a little bit of over 3 seasons now, he's going on year 4 with Atlanta, has a 13.2 Fangraphs WAR with the Braves. No World Series to show for it, of course. Freddie Freeman, in that same span of 3 years and now going on year 4, 20.2 Fangraphs WAR. So nearly seven win, or actually no, exactly a 7 wins above replacement difference, which is something Freddie Freeman is basically giving the Dodgers every year. So just shows you right there how much more valuable and potent Freddie Freeman has been with the Dodgers. And of course, you mentioned it earlier, Freddie Freeman with a walk-off grand slam and World Series MVP to show for it. So again, thank you for the Atlanta Braves for making maybe one of the biggest mistakes in the 21st century. I want to say the 2020s decade, because that's when it went down. So yeah, one of the biggest mistakes of the 2020s decade. So thank you, Atlanta. I know you guys won in 2021 with Freddie Freeman, and then you let him walk, and you haven't been back to the World Series
In
since.
fact,
Another guy that,
in fact, his last home run as an Atlanta was a home run in Houston. Just pointing that out. And thank goodness we won the World Series last year, because otherwise we would have been talking about both Olson and Freeman not showing up in the playoffs. 3 straight first round exits and stuff.
Definitely. Appreciate everyone tuning in right now to the live stream. Hit that like button. If you've got questions for us, you can drop those questions in the chat. The biggest superstar on the planet, Shohei Ohtani, also had a monster series in Miami. Something about playing in Miami in that ballpark just brings out the best in Shohei Ohtani. Last year, that was the home where he hit the milestone of 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases, set a Dodgers franchise record of most bases in a game, had the 3 home runs, the 10 RBIs, and all that. Well, Shohei Ohtani is looking a lot like Shohei Ohtani now here in 2025. He's raised his batting average up to 299. He's got a 411 on base, an OPS a little over 1,000, 10 home runs, 15 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. And I believe at a certain point in time yesterday, he was the only player in all of Major League Baseball to have at least 10 home runs and at least 10 stolen bases. So Shohei Ohtani proving once again he is the best of the best. And like Freddie Freeman, he is also in that MVP conversation because he's been on fire.
And he's also recovering from an injury as well. He had a shoulder surgery. I think his ankle was bothering him, and he's not even pitching yet. We haven't even got Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, yet. They keep delaying his throwing schedule, his return. Obviously, they feel like they don't really need him right now, and also because the Dodgers see this as he's a massive investment, and of course the Dodgers believe that if we don't pitch him now, there's a good chance that we're gonna be able to pitch him in September and October when we absolutely really need him. And of course, the Dodgers are absolutely trying to manage his injury, his workload, because the worst thing that can happen is they lose not only Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, but also Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, for the stretch run. But he's been absolutely excellent right now. He hasn't had a lot of RB opportunities because they've had problems with the bottom of the lineup. We've known that for a long time right now. We're gonna probably talk about that very soon. But other than that, Otani has been absolutely excellent, especially in this entire series. There's something about playing in Miami that just brings out the best in him. And thankfully, he did not sign with the NL East.
I think you just set it up beautifully to transition now to the bottom of the order. It seems like the Dodgers have maybe found their catalyst and a little bit of a spark plug that certainly has ignited the 9-hole slot, especially. And we saw it showcase in this series. Hyeseong Kim got the call up due to the injuries of Tommy Edman, and Teoscar Hernandez will help extend that run as well. And so far, Kim is making the most of this opportunity, and he's looked excellent, making a lot of contact, and he only has one strikeout so far, which I think is a big indicator that he's seeing the ball very well and putting the ball into play. 3 runs scored already. He's got 5 hits. He's 5 for 12, so a 417 batting average, OPS of 834, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. Hyeseong Kim, from what I've seen so far, a speed demon, good defensively, and getting on base. I think this was long overdue. Maybe should have made the opening day roster, but maybe the Dodgers were right. Maybe they helped him find his swing down in the minors. I love seeing Hyeseong Kim up here, and I hope that he's not getting sent down anytime soon. I think he is that solution that you were just talking about to being an excellent 9-hole hitter for the Dodgers.
So yes, the thing about Hyeseong Kim, he struggled right out of the gate out of spring training. So that was pretty much the reason why they sent him down to AAA, because the worst thing that they could have done with Hyeseong Kim was promote him up way too early, have him absolutely suck in the majors, and then he'll have absolutely no confidence, or he'll absolutely shit the bed. So they wanted him to make sure that when he was getting called up, he would start hitting. He would look like a competent Major League Baseball player, and that's exactly what we're seeing with Hyeseong Kim. He's putting the bat into the ball, he's hitting it to all sides of the field, he's not striking out, and he's providing the catalyst, and he's being the catalyst. He's providing he's getting on base to turn over the lineup to the top of the lineups, and I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Hyeseong Kim. Of course, we're gonna see once hitters adjust to him, and or once pitchers adjust to him, and if he's able to adjust back, because we've seen that before, like with Andy Pages. He went on a long slump after dominating early. We've seen that happen infamously with James Outman. He finished third in Rookie of the Year voting, and the following year he had 140 or 150. He was sent back down in May, never came back again. So the thing about Hyeseong Kim is we'll see how he sustains this, and once pitchers start to adjust to him, because the major leagues is not obviously not very easy.
No doubt about it. The good thing about Kim is he does have that professional experience in the KBO league, so he's not like some rookie coming out of college ball. But obviously, a talking point is pitchers out there in Korea are nowhere near the caliber of most major league pitchers you're going to face. And the Marlins, no doubt about it, are kind of as bottom feeders as it gets. They continue to destroy Sandy Alcantara, who, for whatever reason, has been a pretty effective pitcher against the other 28 teams out there. But when it comes to the Dodgers, and of course the Marlins, he doesn't face because he's never pitched anywhere else but Miami. That's why I said the number 28. The Dodgers just own him, and they got to him again in Miami. Everybody is just pummeling poor Alcantara. Freddie Freeman, I believe, took him deep. So 2 starts we got to face him, and they shelled him both times. His career ERA against the Dodgers is just absolutely disgusting, and they got the luxury of facing Cal Quantrill, who's been around. At one point was with the Padres. The Dodgers got to him twice. So when the Dodgers go to this next series, and we'll kind of talk more in depth about the Diamondbacks later on, this is going to be a very good test for Kim, because the D-backs have some good starting pitchers. They've got some good relievers, although they are hampered with some big-time injuries right now. But for the D-backs, this is going to be kind of a playoff series for them because they're going to want to showcase and test the Dodgers. So I'm excited to see what Kim does and what Kim will bring against Arizona. But the way Kim is playing right now, with some of these guys struggling, like Chris Taylor, Miguel Rojas at times, Michael Conforto's in an awful slump. More on Conforto in a few minutes. I think the Dodgers got to continue to get Kim in that lineup. And until Kim gives them a reason not to play him, I want to see Kim as a starter for the Dodgers basically on an everyday basis.
Yes, exactly, because Kim is young. He's 26 years old. The Dodgers are, by design, an old team. They have an old bench. They're veteran laden. They trust veterans more than they trust youth. However, eventually, if you look at the contract situation, for example, at the end of 2025, Rojas is a free agent. Kike is a free agent. Chris Taylor, they pretty much won't bring his option. Maybe they DFA him before the end of the year, but Hyeseong Kim, he's well part of the Dodgers' future. He's young. He's under team control for 5 years. Of course, we know there are two player options after the third year. They can bring him up and down because he still has minor league options. And Hyeseong Kim has a lot of positional versatility. He can play the outfield, he can play second base. I have a feeling he's probably going to play shortstop once they move Mookie Betts off the position. If not this year, maybe in the future. And yes, you did mention how the bottom of the lineup is struggling with Conforto. Oh yeah, Conforto is also a 1 year contract. So eventually, and so they're probably not going to bring him back. Maybe he doesn't finish the year. Of course, there's a lot of money tied to Michael Conforto, but they're going to give him as much opportunities as they can until they finally have to move off Hyeseong Kim. What Kim has to do and what he's so far proven is he's going to make it very, very difficult for the front office, the brass, to send him back down to AAA. It seems like he's going to be performing very, very well to at least make a case to stay on this roster because we've seen that in the past guys get called up, they fail to make a case, they end up getting set back down. But it is absolutely vital for Hyeseong Kim to provide the spark at the bottom of the lineup because the trade deadline is 3 months away, and any or rather 2 months away, and any help that they need from the bottom of the lineup, it cannot come externally until the end of July.
Shout out to Crash because I agree with his sentiment 100%. Kim is just trying to get on base and run, a breath of fresh air. You do not need everyone trying to hit a jack. And that's what brings me to Michael Conforto. Michael Conforto, what the hell happened, man? You are struggling out there. His batting average has plummeted down to 139. And I can't even think of any everyday starter for the Dodgers that hit 139 at this
David
late in the
Outman.
season. I mean, Chris Taylor's been down there, but Chris Taylor, I don't even consider an everyday starter when he was doing that last year at this point. Conforto, they gave $17 million to, and we're getting 139 batting average, 279 on base, 510 OPS. He's in a ridiculous slump too. He's like 3 for his last 48. I think his last home run was now, if not a month ago, over a month ago, like April 5th, April 6th, April 7th. I can't even remember. It's been that long. He's got just 2 home runs this season altogether, which is kind of concerning given that he is kind of a power bat. It's been bad for Conforto based off just how long of a Major League Baseball player he's been. I mean, he's been up since I think at least 2014 or 2015. Well, for sure 2015. Yeah, he debuted in 2015. I remember going to that NLDS series, Mets and Dodgers. So he's a proven veteran, and you'll give him to the end of the month to maybe figure it out. But that leash and that patience with Michael Conforto, if other guys are producing, I don't know. He's bad defensively. He's very slow, and he's not hitting jacks. So what is Michael Conforto really bringing to the Dodgers right now? Zip.
Yes, and it should also be noted that Michael Conforto is pretty much locked to a corner outfield position, or more specifically left field. So the Dodgers are going to try to give him as many opportunities as they can to turn it around because he has a $17 million contract. They're not going to try to DFA and eat the salary, at least not this early into the season. It should also be noted when they signed Michael Conforto, this was the first week of December. Teoscar Hernandez was still a free agent, so they didn't really know at the time that they were going to bring back Teoscar Hernandez. And when they ended up bringing him back, they ended up putting Conforto in left, and then they had to try to find a way to fit Pajes into center because. But if you take Conforto out of the equation, it pretty much allows Pajes to be in left field. He's a much better defensive outfielder in the corners than in center. But the justification of
Yeah.
bringing Michael Conforto into the club was he would be able to jack 20-25 home runs a year. We saw he was an excellent hitter in San Francisco in the second half year, and San Francisco is the most one of the most difficult places to hit, and he hit well over 20 home runs. And the Dodgers also thought that they'd be able to find certain matches for Michael Conforto. For example, they'd sit him out against certain lefties, specifically hard throwing lefties, and so far it hasn't really quite worked. It hasn't worked out at all, and especially if Kim is going to hit at the way he's hitting right now, if he's continuing to make a point to stay on this roster, it'll be very very interesting to see what they do with Michael Conforto, assuming that everyone gets healthy and becomes fit.
We've got BC in the chat saying Michael Conforto is worse than Noah Syndergaard. I don't know if I'd go that far yet. Noah Syndergaard was really, really bad and a liability out there. Conforto is right now the Dodgers leader in a stat you don't want to be. He's got the worst WAR on the team, a negative 0.5, and it continues to go down. So it's not a pretty sight for Conforto. And you bring up a good point that he was kind of like an insurance signing in case Teoscar Hernandez were to go elsewhere. But at the same time, it didn't really seem like any team was serious about signing Teoscar Hernandez. And it kind of is annoying that they have both those corner outfielders because it does block a guy like Andy Pajes up until the injury, which is, you don't want Teoscar hurt. But Andy Pajes is an elite right fielder. All the metrics have suggested it. His actual play shows it. When he doubled off the Marlins player the other day because he has a cannon of an arm, that is what Pajes brings to this team. And he is looking a lot better out there in center field. He's already robbed multiple home runs and extra base hits. Typically, it's with Roki Sasaki on the mound for some reason. But now that Teoscar is hurt, Pajes gets to play his natural position, which is right field. And I think it's important for the Dodgers to have a good defensive right fielder, especially when Mookie Betts was that guy and he moved over to shortstop, because Teoscar is not exactly a great defensive right fielder. So the Dodgers get a big upgrade defensively with Pajes in that position. So that's the only one silver lining with this injury. And it doesn't seem like Teoscar is going to be out too long now for the Dodgers. I think initial reports were that they thought it could be more long-term, but now it sounds like it's going to be a 2 to 3 week injury.
Well, we all know how the Dodgers are with injuries. They tend to downplay things and then all of a sudden, oops, out for the year. Or we saw what happened with Max Muncy with his oblique. It just didn't recover, and it ended up being a 3 month absence. We've seen this happen all over baseball, whether it is with the Dodgers or not with the Dodgers. We saw this with Kyle Tucker. It was supposed to be a day-to-day, week by week, and it turned out to be a 3 week injury. And as for Andy Pajes, I remember back in April we were pretty much all begging in the chat for him to be sent down. Andy Pajes pretty much this was his last opportunity to stick on the roster. He only has one more option year. Next year he's going to be out of options, so he'd have to be on the active roster or DFA'd. And it was a very very steep curve for Andy Pajes because pretty much his only chance to make the roster was to be in center field because the corners were locked by Conforto and Hernandez. Assuming both of them were hitting, it would justify, okay, fine. We want Pajes's bat also in the lineup. We'll have him in center field as well. But now it kind of makes it much, well, unfortunately, due to Teoscar Hernandez's injury and also Michael Conforto in poor form, not hitting right now, it allows Andy Pajes to move to right field. He's actually one of the team's best hitters right now. I believe he's among the leaders in WAR and OPS. with the team right now. He's hitting much higher in the lineup due to the injuries of Tommy Edman and Teoscar Hernandez, and occasionally they're giving Mookie Betts a night off. Like yesterday, they're giving sometimes they give Freddie Freeman a night off. So Andy Pass he's really turned the season around because had he carried on his form from last month, he would have been AAA right now.
So far, it appears another struggling bat for the Dodgers isn't seeing that much of productivity either. And I know he's recently gone to the eyewear, copying Kike Hernandez, but it's still been a rough scene for Max Muncy. Still hitting 177, still has an OPS below 600, just one home run so far this season, which is quite alarming because Max Muncy is historically a guy that you expect about 30 plus home runs on a given basis every single season, and we're already more than a sixth way through the season, I guess now, close to a fifth, I guess. And Max Muncy only has one home run, and over his last 15 games, still hitting 143. Over his last 7 games, hitting 167, and the strikeouts are still there. Even in the last 7 games, 9 strikeouts in his last 24 at bats. And he had a chance to really go off in the 6 games total against the Marlins. And overall, he didn't really do anything. So that brings me to my question and point that if Max Muncy doesn't turn it around, I do believe the Dodgers are serious threats to poach Nolan Arenado from the St. Louis Cardinals. I will go there.
Oh, well, we've been on again, off again with Nolan Arenado for a long time. I remember back in 2023, we were heavily linked to him at the deadline. It never ended up happening. And it does seem like Nolan Arenado he's holding out for a trade as to the Dodgers because we saw him reject a trade to Houston, use his no trade clause, and it seems like for a while now that he wants the Dodgers more than the Dodgers actually want him. But of course, if Max Muncy doesn't turn his season around, it could be a possibility too. Max Muncy is known to be a streaky hitter. We've also seen Max Muncy in foul territory before. He's often been asked by the host, by Scott Braun and all the people there, what are your thoughts about Nolan Arenado? And he gave an answer like, well, as long as he gets to stay in the team, I'll help the team no matter what. Max Muncy's always been a team player. I remember before when the team was heavily linked to Freddie Freeman 3 years ago, he ended up saying my favorite position is second base. I'll happily change positions for Freddie Freeman. That's exactly what happened. The team ended up signing Freddie Freeman. And then Max Muncy was moved to second base, and then they traded AJ Pollock so they can insert Gavin Lux to the starting lineup. And then he had to move to third base. So in that offseason, he had to move from first base to second and then to third. So Max Muncy, the thing that's really striking to me about Max Muncy is he's not really walking as much as he has in the past. Like even when he was struggling, at least he had a great eye. At least he would get on base. He knew what a strike was, even though he was swinging and missing a bunch. But now we're not even seeing him walking as much as he was in years past. So that's what I'm wondering. This is why I'm a bit more skeptical about Max Muncy trying to turn the season around. And also he also missed 3 months last year due to his oblique. So I don't know if that's also affected him as much. We saw Max Muncy's poor form in the World Series. He did not get a single hit, and that's pretty much carried on to this season right now.
More on the injury front, Tommy Edman, who we thought was coming back for the Dodgers soon, he was placed on the 10-day IL, backdated April 30th. It looks like the ankle injury isn't recovering as fast as they were hoping. And so now I think best case scenario, they said they could get Tommy Edman back after the Athletic series. So that would be 7 games from now because they've got 4 with Arizona and then I think 3 with the Athletics. So what that means for the Dodgers in the short term right now, of course, Kim, who we talked about, and James Outman, who was recalled by the Dodgers from Oklahoma City just a couple days ago. And in his first game against Miami, had 3 strikeouts in the 4 at bats, I think that were recorded. And then today, he hit a home run. Now, it was a garbage time home run. It was like Chris Paul making a 3 down 69 points or whatever. But when the Dodgers were up 7-0 at that point of the game, James Outman launched a 3-run home run and to give BC credit, he ties Max Muncy now for home runs hit this season. It took Muncy 30 plus games to get the one home run in. James Outman got a home run in 2 games. What are your overall thoughts though with James Outman?
Well, you are not, you are, based on the chat, I often call him James Strikeout Man because it seems like every single at bat, it's been a strikeout. Even when he was, even when he was very, very good in 2023, he got into a Rookie of the Year race. The he had a very, very high strikeout rate, and that's pretty much why people said that he was not, why the experts said he was not going to age well, or at least he was not going to progress very well. Like he was a platoon outfield at best because of his high strikeout rate. Also, it should also be noted that I'd rather take a garbage time home run out of James Outman than a strikeout. And I always made a joke in the chat that James Outman in his 2023 year has hit more home runs than Anthony Rendon, Hollywood Lifestyle, with the Angels for his 5+ years with the Angels. So James Outman, the thing about James Outman, this is his final year, his final option year, because next year he's going to be out of options, so he'll have to either make the opening day roster or he's going to be DFA'd, waived, whatever it is. So this is his last opportunity to prove to the club that he belongs on a major league roster. And the Dodgers aren't always the most forgiving club in terms of young talent because there's such a veteran laden squad. There's such a win now squad. So if you're a young player, you get called up by the Dodgers, you have to make an instant. You have to make it very, very difficult for the club to send you back down to not find a reason to play you. James Outman looked like in 2023 he was doing exactly that, making it very, very hard for the team to send down. He ended up sticking for the entire season. He did not get sent down once in 2023. We saw that with Bobby Miller in 23. We saw that with Gavin Stone in 24. They weren't they made the opening day, or at least Gavin Stone made the opening day roster. He was never sent down, even though he had a 10 ERA the year before. He earned the 5th starting spot. He made every single start for the Dodgers until unfortunately his shoulder fell apart. And we saw that with Bobby Miller. He was called back in May 2023. He got called up. He made every single start and pitched very, very well for a very, very bad Dodgers rotation. So that's what I'm hoping out of James Outman. With however many opportunities he gets, that he sticks with, he performs well. He performs well enough for the team to make it very difficult to send him back down.
So for me, I definitely agree with all that you said. With me and James Outman, this feels like it's kind of his last chance to prove himself because you've got the 2 injuries right now. And as soon as either of them are ready to be activated, I'm pretty sure James Outman will be the first one to get sent down between him and Kim. So what James Outman needs to do right now in this short window of time is he's got to hit out of his mind, because what could be something that Outman could maybe hope for is if he just goes off in the next week plus. Not saying it will happen, but it could definitely make the Dodgers ponder and make it easier for them to DFA a guy like Chris Taylor or trade away Miguel Rojas to get more out of James Outman. Or on the flip side, if Conforto continues to play like dog shit, then maybe you just get rid of Conforto and trade him early in the year, or put him on the IL and you can just say, oh, he hurt his back, and then he can get some rehab outings in AAA to find his swing or something. But the point that I'm trying to get at now is this really does feel like it's the last dance, the last hurrah, last showcase for James Outman to prove that he can hit at the major league level. Because if he continues to just kind of go on the pace he's had the last year plus, mostly strikeouts with the occasional home run, that's not well suited for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And like you said, he doesn't have options next season. So that kind of puts the Dodgers in a stuck, in a rock and a hard place where they will probably have to trade him this deadline if they're not getting any good production or at bats quality from Outman.
That's exactly what happened with Miguel Vargas last year. They knew last year was his last option, so they ended up shipping Miguel Vargas. Obviously, we know what the return was: Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech, who were both instrumental helping them win the World Series. Now Miguel Vargas is with the White Sox. He has to perform well, otherwise he gets cut because he's out of options. And how the Dodgers design their roster. If you look at their roster and Fangraphs, their healthiest roster, 12 out of 13 guys do not have options. They knew this when they brought back when they picked up Miguel Rojas as option, when they signed Kike Hernandez, when they chose not to DFA or trade Chris Taylor. So pretty much everybody on that roster, 12 out of 13 do not have options, do not have the opportunity to get sent down. So if the Dodgers want to move off them, they would have to DFA them and pretty much eat the money and allow them to head to free agency. And so as of right now, if everybody's healthy, Pajes, Kim, and Outman are competing for that one spot, one up down spot, because that's the only spot that can be optioned unless they move out of any of the 12 guys that do not have options or one of them suffers a long-term injury.
Appreciate everyone joining the stream right now. If you haven't hit that like button, would appreciate you all hitting the like button for us. If you have a question for me or Justin, you can ask us anything. Just drop it below in the YouTube chat, and we'll hit you up and get those questions in. So just some other people that I want to trash real quick while I have the floor here. Thank you, Dodgers, for DFAing Yandris Gomez. That was one of the biggest pieces of stink I've ever seen put on a Dodgers uniform in recent memory. He made Johan Ramirez look like Eric Gagne out there. Like, I thought Johan was bad. Yoendries is 10 times worse. They gave him multiple opportunities. I think they were all against Miami too, where the Dodgers were up 6+ runs and he nearly coughed up the game both times. He couldn't pitch for the Yankees. He couldn't pitch for the Dodgers. I don't know why two of the biggest markets out there in all of baseball wanted that scrub on their roster, but definitely a mistake by Andrew Freeman. That guy sucks. So thank goodness he is gone. JP Fireeisen, I do not get why the Dodgers brought his ass back to this ball club after that monstrosity of a season he had with us last season. I mean, he got DFA'd this year by the Dbacks. So I don't know why the Dodgers felt like, oh, let's give him another chance. They punted the game away yesterday because they couldn't score in extra innings. So they threw out JP Fireeisen. I don't think Fireeisen recorded a single out. He had his one little date for the Dodgers, and then it felt like he kicked us in the nuts. We lost the game, and then they sent him down today to call up Landon Knack. But JP Fireeisen, my goodness, that guy is awful. I don't know why they would choose him when you have Brent Honeywell out there. David Robertson is, I'm pretty sure, out there on the free agent market. There could have been a million better options than Yandris Gomez or freaking JP Fireeisen. Awful.
So yeah, if they were gonna get somebody in that who was involved in that trade, I wish it was Willie Adames and not JP Fireeisen. You remember back in 2020 when he was involved in that trade with Milwaukee and Tampa Bay. But yeah, I do not know what they see out of JP Fireeisen. It is telling that he got DFA'd even with options. Because we know last year the club outrighted him off the 40-man roster. Eventually, he elected free agency, and then Arizona got him, and he still had an option. He was still DFA'd, and the Dodgers got him again. I don't know what their plan is with him if he's really going to occupy a 40-man roster spot for, even though he can be optioned because they already have Matt Sauer for that. And talking about Matt Sauer, he pitched pretty well today. He's been pitching pretty well after well, not pitching well his entire career. He was a Rule 5 selectee last year. He was essentially a Yankee reject. Kansas City picked him, and then he couldn't stick on Kansas City roster. He was returned to the Yankees. The Yankees kept his non-40-man roster up, and then he was able to elect minor league free agency. And then he went to the Dodgers. So at least there's one Yankee reject who's performing well for us for right now. As for Yoendris Gomez, yeah, I don't know what they were seeing out of him. The reason why the Yankees ended up DFAing him was he was out of options. So when he went to the Dodgers, basically him not having options pretty much told me I don't know how long he's gonna last. And if you're right, if the Dodgers wanted a reliever that did not have options, if anything, I'm not the. I mean, I get it. Brett Honeywell, he's kind of a cult hero in Dodger Blue for eating up the innings. Brett Honeywell is not really a great pitcher, but even I'd prefer him over what I saw from Yoendris Gomez. And as for David Robertson, well, I kind of wish, if anything, I kind of do wish if the club were to move in that direction, that they would have done it earlier in the off season, because David Robertson will need a lot of time to ramp up down in AAA. Well, he isn't he like over 40 years old. And one thing interesting about David Robertson is he doesn't have an agent. He represents himself. So as of right now, I believe he's just sitting out until he gets the amount of money he wants. Otherwise, he's cool, pretty much living a retired life.
Interesting. The other Dodgers reliever that I just cannot figure out if he's bad, mediocre, or serviceable, because he's pitched in half the games for the Dodgers this season, which is just wild to
I
me.
think I know what you're saying.
Luis Garcia, the
Yep.
38-year-old, 4.58 ERA, a 164 WHIP. There are times where Luis Garcia will show flashes of being a competent reliever, but I feel like when the Dodgers use him in high leverage, more often than not, it just kind of backfires, and that was the case yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware that Luis Garcia is here because there are injuries in kind of abundance right now, with Trinan most likely out for the majority of the season. You've got Michael Kopech on the 60-day IL, and he will probably not be back till June, best case scenario. And then with Evan Phillips now going on the IL with the forearm tightness or strain, sounds like it's more on the precautionary side, but it's the Dodgers, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. Evan Phillips could easily be out for longer than they're indicating right now. So Luis Garcia is here and he's doing something, but I'm not excited watching Luis Garcia for the Dodgers, especially at high leverage. So I'll let you talk about Luis Garcia if you have anything to say about him. Otherwise, I'm going to move to my suggestion that I've been saying for a while now.
I don't really have much about Luis Garcia other than when they get most of their guys out, they can easily just DFA him. He doesn't have options. So, and he's 37, 30 years old. They're missing Gratterall, another guy we forgot to mention. Maybe comes back in August or September. We'll see. So
Yeah.
once they get at least some of the guys back, once they get into a roster crunch, he's a guy who's very easy to DFA. So I'm not gonna get too much into Luis Garcia. He's pretty much on borrowed time right now, and he knows it.
All right. So I've said this before. I've said it multiple times now, but I'm going back to this opinion of mine. It's time to convert Bobby Miller into a reliever because he's just not starter material at this point in his career. And it's not just the major leagues where he's struggling, it's AAA as well. He's got a 5 ERA right now in AAA. He's made 5 starts, has a 1.5 WHIP. That 5 ERA. Today he pitched against Albuquerque. He gave up 6 runs in 6 innings, had 7 hits, 3 home runs, 7 strikeouts. And his outing before that, he only went 4 innings, gave up 4 runs, 6 walks. The thing with Bobby Miller, and I think it could easily be corrected, first of all, cut out some of his stinker pitchers. I loved at the initial call up that he could throw like 6 different pitches, but some of them are just not working for him. So they need to work on maybe getting rid of 2 or 3 of his pitches and kind of turn him into like a Michael Kopech Trinan guy. 2-3 pitches tops is what he could throw. And we've seen it with a lot of guys that they look like just awful starters. You think they're done being major league pitchers, they're busts, and then they completely renovate their careers and become high effective, super high leverage arms. Michael Kopech, perfect example, couldn't do it at all with the White Sox, was a top prospect, becomes a reliever, shows flashes with the White Sox. Then the Dodgers trade for him and they turn him into a superstar reliever. Joe Kelly is another one. He was a top tier starter, was picked either 1 pick before or 1 pick after Corey Seager in the same draft class, started in the NLCS against the Dodgers, and then couldn't handle being a starter, turned into a pretty effective high leverage reliever. I know inconsistent at times, but he did get 3 rings for a reason. Then you've got Brusdar Graterol was another example. You can go way back to Eric Gagne, whether you want to give it credit to steroids or not. He was a starting pitcher that turned into one of the greatest closers of his era. And I think the Dodgers need to, if they want to get anything out of Bobby Miller, you've got to make the move sooner rather than later, because what is the point of wasting him down in AAA if he's just going to get lit up every start? Like, at least get something out of him. This guy could be a high leverage arm as he gets more comfortable. We saw Shelby Miller do it. We've seen Joe Blanton do it. A lot of guys have done it. And
Andrew Miller.
exactly. Andrew Miller is another perfect example. Why can't Bobby Miller be that next version? A guy that you get 3 outs of, maybe 6 outs from. I think this is time for Bobby Miller to be a part of the Dodgers bullpen, because they are really overworking a lot of these guys right now. And I am terrified that the Kaspariuses or the Dryers of the world will run out of gas when we get to September.
Another thing about Bobby Miller, we saw this time and time over again last year, is once he got into a little bit of trouble, he fell apart. Like if he would walk about, then he would walk the next, or the hits would come, or would a runner on, 2 runners on, he'd serve a meatball straight down the middle, and it would go 450 feet out into the center field wall. So, and that's one thing about it. I mean, it is, in a way, I kind of understand Bobby Miller as a reliever. He won't have to worry about pitching to a lineup 2-3 times. He won't have to worry about 5-6 different pitches. He won't have to worry about pacing himself for 5 innings, 6 innings. The only problem is relievers themselves by nature are not versatile. They're volatile. They only have 2-3 innings or 2 or 3 outs to work with. If they get lit up, their ERA jumps from 1-6 or 1-7, whatever the case is. And if you put Bobby Miller as a 1 inning guy, you don't know if you'll get a good version of Bobby Miller, or he's going to absolutely melt down. He's going to fall apart. And they are running out of time with Bobby Miller. He used an option year last year, and he used an option year this year. So next year will be his final option year again. So we'll see what they do with Bobby Miller. I think he started today, right, in AAA, and he gave up 6 earned runs in 6 innings or something like that. 7 earned runs in 6 innings. His ERA is now at a 5, so things are not really looking particularly great out of Bobby Miller. And especially, we don't know how much of it is in his head right now, or if there's something mechanically wrong with him. We know last year he had problems with his shoulder, but it seems a lot of it is everything is in his head right now for Bobby Miller.
Call me _Astro asking, wouldn't it make more sense to just use Bobby for spot starts than a 1 inning guy, especially with all the injuries? Did you miss Bobby Miller pitch against the Colorado Rockies? We're not trying to lose games here. We want to still win. So I don't want 5 garbage innings. I want 1 or 2 effective relief innings at this point from Bobby Miller. The Dodgers,
he was given a 7-0 lead against Colorado, and he gave 6 of them back within 3 innings.
Awful. The Dodgers actually have a pretty good staff right now. Dustin May, you talked about Tony Gonsolin. He's looked good, albeit it's against Miami, but he's going the distance at least. May, Gonsolin, Yamamoto, who we could talk about Yamamoto for a half hour because he's just been one of the top pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. Sasaki seems to start to turn a corner. He's looking good. He picked up his first Major League win just the other night. He should have 2 now, but we won't talk about that blown save. But Roki Sasaki looking good. And then Landon Knack was really effective. I know you had some thoughts on Landon Knack if you wanted to touch more on him. I know you were really impressed with Knack.
Well, this was the first good start we've seen out of Landon Knack in a really, really long time. We saw what happened in unfortunately in Game 2 of the 2024 NLCS. He gives up the Grand Slam, and pretty much this year that's been a continuation of that type of form. However, he did pitch particularly well today in a game where they really needed length from their starters. They needed anything that they can get, and they ended up using him, and they ended up using Sauer. I don't know if they used anybody else today. I know they use Knack and Sauer for pretty much most, if not all, of the game. One thing about Landon Knack is he's more of a pitch to contact guy. He prides himself on his command. He doesn't walk a lot of hitters. Of course, that hadn't been the case this season, which is why he keeps getting sent back up and down. He hasn't between AAA and the majors, but this time around he only gave up 1 walk right now. The rotation has largely been a strength this entire season, for especially Yamamoto's pretty much in the Cy Young race. Roki Sasaki is raw, but he's looking a lot better. He's getting more confident in his stuff. He's limiting his walks. He's pitching deeper into games. You said it before. He should have really had 2 wins, but I'm very happy he got his first win last Saturday. Dustin May has been pretty up and down. We saw him absolutely, for lack of a better word, shit the bed in Chicago. He gave up 7 runs. The team pretty much had to pretty much save his ass, for lack of better words. But he pitched particularly decently against Miami last week in LA. It wasn't particularly great, but he was a lot better. Against Atlanta, well, Austin Riley pretty much owned him twice. He got out through everybody else except Austin Riley and for some reason Alex Verdugo. But for a back end starter, Dustin May, he is what he is. He has to pitch well in order to not only stay in this rotation, but also he's a free agent at the end of the year. We know his history of injuries. He hasn't been able to pitch past the month of May, ironically, even though his last name is May.
Yep.
Maybe next year he might get only like a $2 million contract, $2.5 million, because he can't stay fit. He can't stay on the mound, and unfortunately, they're pretty much put in this situation, May and Gonsolin, because they're missing Blake Snell, they're missing Tyler Glasnow, and I'm very sure you have a lot to say about Tyler Glasnow. But hopefully they get them back, and we'll see what happens. Maybe maybe Gonsolin gets sent to the bullpen once they get all of their starters back, once they get Otani back, once they get Kershaw back. Who knows?
And the Dodgers are about to get another big name back as soon as May 18th. Clayton Kershaw, who you may or may not recognize. I would hope any Dodger fan recognizes that name of Clayton Kershaw. But he made one more rehab appearance recently and completely dominated, but was like lower A level, 6 innings. I don't even think he gave up a hit. He dominated that. No surprise there. Dave Roberts said today that they kind of expect him to make one more rehab start, and then he's eligible to come off the 60-day IL May 18th. So that's just about 11 days away or so. That at this point, it feels like Clayton Kershaw is more of a necessity because of the Dodgers' kind of thin starting staff. I mean, they've got the arms right now, but the depth will definitely help. So excited to see what Clayton Kershaw can provide for the Dodgers this season. If they can get him back in May, which it seems like by all indications is about to be that path, that'll be awesome for the Dodgers. So I'm excited to see that. Of course, he's chasing the 3,000 strikeout milestone. The big key and the concern, of course, with Kershaw, how long can he stay healthy? Because that seems to be the thing that's really been derailing his career, especially over the back half of the second half of his career. So we'll see what we get from Kershaw. At this point, they need him to eat those innings, but I'm excited to see what Kershaw will bring to the Dodgers in 2025.
Yeah, it is kind of a shame that the last time we saw 30 plus starts in a season out of Clayton Kershaw was a decade ago, 2015. Every year since then, he's missed a couple of weeks, couple of months due to injury. And if you told me back in November when Clayton Kershaw he had off-season surgery, right? Was it his ankle or his foot or something like that? His knee, something like that, right?
Yeah,
His knee, right? So if you told me back in the off-season that not only would Clayton Kershaw be pitching in May, but also that we would absolutely need Clayton Kershaw to pitch in May, I would have said that you were mad. But look, here we are right now after signing Sasaki, after signing Blake Snell, the year after we signed Yamamoto and traded for Tyler Glasnow, that we still need Clayton Kershaw to make a start for us as early as May instead of slow playing him. The thing that's great about Clayton Kershaw was he was still a great pitcher back in 2023. He had an ERA of 2.5. He pitched about half the year. So we'll see what we get out of Clayton Kershaw. Obviously, it's not the version of Clayton Kershaw we're used to seeing back when he was in his prime. His velocity is diminished, and he's relying on his off-speed pitches rather than obviously his diminished velocity to get by hitters, to strike out hitters. And yes, they do need the length. They do need length out of him, and we'll see what happens. I do not believe they're going to if everybody's fit, that Clayton Kershaw's not going to be pitching, or at least not out of the rotation in the postseason. But that's well down the road.
With Blake Snell and Glass now on the IL, like you mentioned, the streets are saying that there is a big time starter out there that the Dodgers could pursue if they need to cross that path. The Minnesota Twins will be taking offers for Pablo Lopez, who is probably one of the game's most underrated starting pitchers out there. Even this season, he's 3-2 with a 2.18 ERA, WHIP below 1. He's like I said, one of the game's I think most underrated starting pitchers. The guy just kind of gets it done and has been a workhorse historically over the track record of his career. This is obviously going to be more prominent if Glasnow were to be out for a longer duration, and then same goes for Blake Snell. But I just don't imagine the Dodgers coming out of the deadline not making a move if Snell, if Glasnow, and you can throw Ohtani into that mix, aren't healthy, and there's some doubts about them all being available for the postseason, because this would be like the Dodgers last season, where if they didn't get Jack Flaherty, I don't think they win the World Series. And they're going to need another big time arm to complement Yoshinobu Yamamoto, especially if those three weren't available to pitch for whatever reason. I mean, this is definitely projecting well down the road. But for me, I think Pablo Lopez is probably the best fit of any arm available out there. I know a lot of Dodgers fans wanted Sandy Alcantara, but I'm just convinced right now he's just not good and wouldn't be good for the Dodgers. And he also just can't pitch in Dodger Stadium for whatever reason. He'd be a little bit more expensive, but I think Pablo Lopez is an awesome target for the Dodgers. But again, it's only May, and these will be more talks in late June and early July. But just something to keep an eye on, that the Dodgers could be linked to Pablo Lopez.
So remember how back in November, December, January, when we were making all these big signings, and then they asked Andrew Friedman about his offseason, and then he basically responded that yes, because I don't want to make trades at the trade deadline. Everything is more expensive. You give up more prospects, and of course that's kind of living in an ideal world. That was never going to happen. Of course, as we know right now, pretty much the Dodgers are, if they don't get if they don't get Tyler Glasnow back, if they don't get Blake Snell back, if they don't get the back not only in full form, and they're pretty much going to have to make a trade for a starting pitcher. Not only because you want to play keep away, you don't want them going to San Diego, you don't want to go into New York, you don't want them to go to Chicago. All of these three teams badly need starting pitching. They've also suffered from injuries as well, and especially for San Diego, they've lost. They don't have Joe Musgrove for the year. They We don't know when they're getting Udovic back. Dylan Cease had a forearm problem. He left the game because of, I think, his forearm was sparking, and if that's a long term injury, they signed Kyle Hart. Now he's down in AAA, and yeah, so they could easily be in the market for a Pablo Lopez. I remember back in 2022, we were linked to Pablo Lopez. We ended up not cheering for him. Eventually, Miami sent him to Minnesota for Luis Arias, who is ironically now in San Diego. So maybe they
Yep.
could be teammates. And yes, I do see the value in Pablo Lopez. He's a very, very good second or third starter. I think it was Robert Murray a few days ago on the Baseball Insiders who mentioned it. Chicago is also going to be looking at him. They just lost Justin Steele to elbow surgery,
Yeah.
and they lost Shota Imanaga to a hamstring injury. Hamstrings are very, very tricky to begin with,
Mhm.
and Chicago missed the opportunity to trade for Jesus Luzardo. We know they were linked to him. Miami ended up trading him to the division in Philadelphia. So I'd be absolutely open to Pablo Lopez. The one thing about the Dodgers is when they do make a trade, they're willing to take on money as opposed to other teams. So that could give the Dodgers an advantage. They're able to take in more money. They use that as a way to justify not giving up as many prospects. We saw the Dodgers do this famously with the Mookie Betts trade. They took on David Price's contract, so they only had to give up one top chip, prospect in Alex Verdugo. Well, he wasn't really a prospect; he was an actual MLB player at the time. We saw the Dodgers do this with Tyler Glass, and they took on a player they absolutely did not want in Emmanuel Margot. So they could only give up two prospects. It was DeLuca and Pepio. So that's the one advantage if the Dodgers do happen to go that route. is they can take on significant money while not giving up as many prospects. And it seems like Minnesota, out of all clubs, out of the other clubs who are probably going to be sellers, they're more willing to slash payroll than they are to get as many prospects back. We saw there may be other pitchers available in the market. You mentioned Alcantara. Maybe Sonny Gray gets traded. I know he has a no trade clause as well. We don't know if the Dodgers are in it or not. Maybe Chris Bassett, who's on an expiring deal, could be traded as well. Maybe Kevin Gausman if Toronto are really set on rebuilding. I mean, I get it. They signed Vladimir Guerrero to this. They extended him to this big ass contract. But if they're not competitive in the AL East, they can always choose to rebuild. And maybe Kevin Gausman could be available. Maybe Pittsburgh. They know Mitch Keller is making a ton of money. Maybe they could trade him as well. Pittsburgh is as unpredictable as possible. They're not strangers to trading players with big contracts. Actually, the entire trade market is just because you have a big contract doesn't mean you're going to stay with the team. They have no problem trade. They have no problem trading. Look at Tampa Bay with Blake Snell. Look at them with Tyler Glasnow. They got traded when they were on big contracts. So we could see that happen with the Dodgers as well. The Dodgers' advantage is usually that they're able to take on a large amount of money while as a way to not give as much prospects. On the opposite scale is San Diego. We've seen them do this with the Juan Soto trade. We've seen them do this with the Luis Suarez trade. They're they're willing to give out a lot more prospects, but you take on the money that they don't want. So we saw that happen with Miami. They dumped Wusuk Go to a reliever they didn't want to Miami, and they made Miami pay down Luis Arias's contract down to the minimum. But they gave up a ton of prospects to get him. We saw it happen with the Juan Soto deal. They were able to take on Josh Bell, but and they made initially they made Washington take on Eric Hosmer, eventually became looking forward to, but they gave up a haul to get those type of players. So we'll see how the trade deadline works out, especially with starting pitching. It seems like everybody needs it.
Sonny Gray, I
You
could
can't have
see the
enough of it.
Dodgers going after. He's a pretty good arm. No thanks on Mitch Keller. That guy stinks. He would get lit up for the Dodgers. So let's move
He
on.
probably would too.
This is the last thing I want to cover. And then if you have anything else for your final thoughts, more than happy to hear that too. I'd argue this is the biggest series of the season at this point for the Dodgers. They're going to Chase Field. They've got 4 games against the 19 and 18 Arizona Diamondbacks. In this order, you'll see Yoshinobu Yamamoto against Brandon Pfaadt. Then you've got Roki Sasaki against Equit, who is formerly known as Eduardo Rodriguez. He's got a 6 ERA this season. Dustin
and he
May
was bad last year too.
He was bad last year. Dustin May right now is scheduled against Corbin Burns. We'll see if that actually happens. Corbin Burns is dealing with some shoulder soreness. And then it's TBD for the Dodgers and Zach Gallen. So they get to see the best of the best from Arizona. Merrill Kelly won't be in that series because he's pitched tonight. But that is all of Arizona's top tier starters right there. They're throwing the best at us. And I want to just quickly highlight Corbin Carroll is having a pretty respectable, strong season for Diamondbacks right now. He's got 11 home runs to lead the ball club, OPS of 983, hitting basically 300, 613 slugging. So you have to watch out for Corbin Carroll. Eugenio Suarez just had a 4 home run game the other night, and he's got 10 home runs for Arizona despite hitting 197, but you can't sleep on his power. Then they just got a bunch of other dudes who it's a pretty good lineup. Lourdes Gurriel's having a decent, actually, he's not having that good of a year, but he's got 6 home runs. Geraldo Perdomo's the one that is worth showcasing, 850 OPS with 30 RBIs. He's been really getting it done at the shortstop position. And then you won't see Christian Walker because they let him go, and he's now with the Houston Astros. But Josh Naylor is having a pretty potent season so far. 300 hitter, 377 on base, 832 OPS. And the shocking one of them all, this guy has been a scrub of the scrubs all the years in his career. He must be on a contract year or something, but Pavin Smith has a 960 OPS. Who could have saw that one coming?
And they don't even have Ketel Marte yet. He's out with an injury. I think he missed a lot of last year, so like a month, 2 months with an injury as well. It pretty much allowed Francisco Lindor to climb up the MVP race last year. The thing about Arizona is their pitching is absolute a mess, for lack of better words. And that's ironically where they spent the most amount of money. We saw them spend money on Montgomery. We saw them spend money on Eduardo Rodriguez. Both, neither of them have worked out. And we'll see about Corbin Burns right now. I expect him to be a lot better than what we've seen right now. Obviously, Arizona has a history of spending a lot of money on starting pitching. We saw that with Greinke. We saw happened with Madison Bumgarner, and this is going to be the best offense that the Dodgers are going to face this as of right now. It could be debated if Chicago is that, and it should also be noted that last year when we went to Arizona and with a pretty much a patchwork starting pitching rotation, I think Kasparis had to eat pretty much wear a game where he gave up 9 runs. We ended up taking 3 out of 4 out of Arizona, and Arizona was at the time a threat in the wild card or even the division race. We ended up taking 3 out of 4 there. Eventually, Arizona ended up missing the playoffs by 1 game and we probably helped contribute to that. So it will be a very interesting matchup against Arizona, especially with the pitching side. I've always wanted to see Corbin Burns pitch against. I kind of wanted him when he was a free agent. Eventually, I kind of understood why we didn't go after him after we signed Blake Snell. Of course, you pretty much want to see Friday's matchup with our favorite pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez. But let's be honest, we're absolutely fucking thankful we ended up not signing him, because he did not pitch until August last year, and when he did pitch, he was pretty bad. He had what, a 5 ERA, a 6 ERA. Was one of the main reasons why Arizona did not make the playoffs, because he pitched so terribly last year, and we're seeing that carry on this year as well.
No, yeah, I never wanted quit. He's one of the most overrated pitchers in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed that the Dodgers even tried to trade for him at the 2023 deadline,
Mm-hmm.
and he's an asshole for vetoing that trade. And then he ends up going to Arizona, which just makes literally no sense at all. But it is what it is.
He wanted the Dodgers to give him an extra year on his current contract. So essentially, he wanted the Dodgers to be on the hook for a 4-year, $70 million deal, whatever it was. It wasn't because he didn't want to move across the country, didn't want to be in the West Coast. The family thing, that was all BS. The main reason why he vetoed the trade was he wanted the Dodgers to give him more money. When they didn't, he decided to stay with Detroit. Eventually, he ended up getting more money with Arizona, and clearly that contract is not working out for them.
Definitely. That's all I got. Justin Yamas, thank you so much for joining. Do you have any quick final thoughts before we get on out of here?
Well, let's hope we can take 3 out of 4 against Arizona, continue to bury them.
Which Dodger do you think will have the biggest series? I mean, which Dodger do you think will have the best performance in this series?
Yamamoto.
Okay. I'm going to call my shot, and I will say it's going to be a big series for Mookie Betts.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to see that as well.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. Again, we are presented by Tick Pick and Fansided. And if you haven't joined the Discord yet, you can find it in the chat. You can talk to the likes of myself and Justin Yamas. Thank you guys for watching.